He ordered all public schools and gathering places closed. He divided the cities into separate districts with distinct support staff so as to segregate outbreaks. He laid out plans and organized the flu response before the flu ever hit the city so they would be ready when it did. The city's government, medical, and civic organizations banded together to educate citizens on prevention such as hand washing, avoiding public places, and wearing a face mask. While Philadelphia's government was still denying there was a problem, San Francisco authorities were distributing 100,000 face masks. Police enforced the face mask rule at gunpoint and actually shot people who refused to wear masks in the streets. As the second wave diminished throughout the country, San Francisco rejoiced for having missed the flu. The flu would mutate once more and rage through the world for a third time, but infecting and killing fewer people. This time it would be less severe. This time it did hit San Francisco because they thought the flu was already over. The third wave hit the Southwest and Midwest hard, but for the rest of America, the worst of the flu had passed. Even as America woke from the nightmare, the epidemic had left its imprint. Right at the height of harvest time, farmers had been too sick to farm, and workers didn't show up to gather the food in. Food that was harvested rotted in warehouses because there was no one to transport it. There was a lag while the country tried to catch up on shipping food and goods, and store shelves and markets stayed empty for some time because goods hadn't been delivered. As winter rolled in, there was a shortage of coal and other goods. However, the weary country still rejoiced, for an armistice was signed on November 11, 1918. The war was finally over, even as the plague and its effects lingered on. In the U.S., it killed about 675,000. The flu killed an estimated 3% of the entire world population. In Latin America, the flu killed 10 out of every 1,000 people. In Africa, about 15 out of every 1,000 died, and in parts of Asia, the death rate was as high as 35 per thousand. In Tahiti, it killed 10% of the population, and in Western Samoa, 20% of the population died. In India alone, it killed about 20 million people. You may be asking yourself, could a deadly flu like that happen again? It's important to understand that the Spanish flu was devastating for a number of reasons unique to that time. However, the essential formula for epidemics still exists. Viruses sometimes jump species, for instance from pigs to humans. This could happen at any time, anywhere in the world. And of course, flu viruses are constant.
Biden is evil. Trump must win. He's real. He will bring back the people's trust. These leftists are not for the American people. It's the biggest cover-up ever. Biden is an extension of the policies of Obama that weakened America, and we cannot let that happen again. The left are deceitful and have lied to the American people. They have stripped down her mighty powers for their own ego of power to rule the nation's economy. Let us ask God to rid this horror, and let us hold a candle on this land of the free and bring her back to the place she once stood proud. She is God's liberty. She is God's love. She is freedom, dignity. And God will cast his healing breath across this land. He will vanquish deceit. And I assure you that Jesus, Moses, will stand their ground and ask all to vote for truths. Our land of the free will break her chains, and this will be. My children of God, your only hope is to see this greatness. And you must vote for this man in office, the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, for he is a man of integrity fighting for you and this country's welfare. He loves this country as you do. Don't allow deceit to manipulate you, for only truths will prevail. Don't die knowing you all allowed a lie. This lie has to be wiped out. Donald Trump has been great for the American people these last 4 years, and he wants to continue to fight for her glory and freedom. The left will bring you down with their lies and destroy America. Let us all pray, and may God give us strength that we may shine in the name of Jesus and Moses and saints of all religions. May we hold God's torch of truths and pray for world peace, for the U.S. to bring her nation's flag to wave with pride with President Donald Trump, 2020. God bless.
Do it again. What, you can't say Trump 2020 now? Fucking pussy. Say it again.
Trump 2020.
Go fuck yourself, you fucking fascist.
Trump 2020. Put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook. Trump 2020. Take a picture, take a video. Put it on your Facebook, put it on your YouTube. Have some fun. Tough guy.
Family stealing the election. The media's covering it up. The Biden crime family stealing this election. The media's covering it up. The Biden crime family stealing this election. The media's covering it up. We want our freedom for the world. Give us our freedom, Joe Biden. Joe Biden's covering up this election. He's stealing it.
I like his shirt, and in my honest opinion, that man should be the next president of the United States. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is 𝚑𝙻𝙻𝚄𝙼𝙸 of WeAreChange.org. A lot of important issues to get into today, especially with all the allegations and information coming all across the United States surrounding the 2020 presidential election. And if there ever was a time to remind you this, well, it's important to note here that we actually don't need a president with our current form of government and could really continue everything through the legislature and not much would change. And I think we definitely have an opportunity for that right now since Election Day is literally being drawn out to election week. Third world countries literally hold elections without problems, but here in the United States, nope. And the longer that time goes on, the more suspicious people get. And in my opinion, there's some reason to be suspicious, especially when it comes to information that people are getting from the mainstream media that literally flip-flops on issues like a fish out of water.
So Donald Trump just put this tweet out that was automatically censored by Twitter. And you just scroll through the comments. Notice this one. Spiritual warfare, folks.
How do you feel about Trump? How do I feel about him?
Yeah, how do you feel about his term?
I want a fuller context and a longer form to talk about that. And if I said something to you now, it could be one line could be taken out of context and could be put in a headline. So I don't want to take the chance for that. I need a longer form where I know it's word for word. Everything I'm saying is being broadcast.
US actor Matthew McConaughey there, brutally shutting down the project's Carrie Bickmore's line of questioning after she asked how he feels about Donald Trump.
Mr. Howe, Senator Kennedy, my fellow Americans. Since this campaign began, I have had a very rare privilege. I have traveled to 48 of the 50 states. And in my travels, I have learned what the people of the United States are thinking about. There is one issue that stands out above all the rest, one in which every American is concerned, regardless of what group he may be a member and regardless of where he may live. And that issue, very simply stated, is this: how can we keep the peace, keep it without surrender? How can we extend freedom, extend it without war? Now, in determining how we deal with this issue, we must find the answer to a very important but simple question. Who threatens the peace? Who threatens freedom in the world? There's only one threat to peace and one threat to freedom, that is presented by the international communist movement. And therefore, if we are to have peace, if we are to keep our own freedom and extend it to others without war, we must know how to deal with the communists and their leaders. I know Mr. Khrushchev. I also have had the opportunity of knowing and meeting other communist leaders in the world. I believe there are certain principles we must find in dealing with him and his colleagues. Principles, if followed, that will keep the peace and that also can extend freedom. First, we have to learn from the past because we cannot afford to make the mistakes of the past. In the 7 years before this administration came into power in Washington, we found that 600 million people went behind the Iron Curtain. And at the end of that 7 years, we were engaged in a war in Korea, which cost over 30,000 American lives. In the past 7 years, in President Eisenhower's administration, this situation has been reversed. We ended the Korean War. By strong, firm leadership, we have kept out of other wars, and we have avoided surrender of principle or territory at the conference table. Now, why were we successful as our predecessors were not successful?
In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world. And we continue to feel, Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So, I ask everyone to stay calm.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly, but a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech.
So I'm in downtown Detroit at the TCF Center, which is in the heart of Detroit, in the heart of the D. And I had a couple of people reach out to me and say, could you do another Facebook Live and explain where you're at and why you're here?
I wanted to just bring you along with me as we go and we put the ducks away and we put the chickens away and the baby chicks and the doves. And that way it can give us some time to talk together and just go over what's been taking place in the last, 48 hours, right? It's pretty incredible stuff.
We firmly believe that there are many voters in this group of mail-in people that are not proper voters. In the last many days, we have received reports of many irregularities across the valley. We believe that there are dead voters that have been counted.
There's a lot of amazing things that are taking place. We are seeing so many people come out with videos and with investigative reports and with actually standing up for their rights when they start seeing that there's criminal activity going on.
So something that's very interesting that happened here in Detroit is, I just talked to a guy that's been here all night. They were ready to shut down the precinct. They had counted all the ballots. Everything was good. Everything went smoothly. And then it was at about 4 a.m. that 3 vehicles arrived, a van, a Chrysler 300, and a Ferrari with 130,000 plus ballots. He said he was astonished as they started counting the ballots. He was astonished that every single ballot, like literally 100% of that 130,000 ballots were all Biden ballots.
It's amazing what people will do to have their candidate win.
Now beginning, let's listen.
The court just issued an order allowing immediate access for our team to observe the voting process. Immediate access. So our team of 15 people will be headed in right now to observe the vote counting process. This is very important because, as you know, they have kept us away 30 to 50 to 100 feet with a barricade. They had a guy in there wearing a badge who is not a sworn law enforcement officer, keeping people away. This is not a matter for the Secretary of State or Supervisor of Elections. The U.S. Constitution and the under the U.S. Constitution, the legislature has the right to make these laws which they have made, and a judge just confirmed that they must be followed. So we plan on entering that building right now and legally observing the voting process. Because if there's one illegal vote that is cast, it takes away from the great men and women of Pennsylvania who came out and issued a legal vote. So thank you very much.
Why don't you help me? Let's go do the ducks. Okay, Quackers. Everybody in. Everybody in. Come on. Along. Everybody good?
The presidency literally hangs in the balance. And what the fundamental principle is here is that we want to be able to make sure that the counting that occurs and that the results that happen can be respected by every American voter across this land and truly across the world. If you're not allowed in to see the process, both sides and all of you in the media, so that there is transparency, so that there's meaningful observing of these ballots, that calls into question what those results will be. The idea in this country, the idea in America, that we would somehow reduce or limit the ability to have basic insurance that a ballot is a legal ballot, that a ballot is an acceptable ballot, that the person who voted, that we took minimal steps to make sure that there was a signature match, for instance. Those types of guarantees need to be in the process. And so we have to understand that what's going on in Nevada impacts what's going on all across this country, which is the American people want to have confidence in the results that are coming out of Nevada. That will occur when we can make a case why every ballot is an acceptable, compliant ballot.
You make sure all our chickens are inside. You inside, huh? Okay, everybody good?
Yes, so let me just tell it to you like this. We love you, Donald J. Trump, and Arizona here in the Grand Canyon State. You've delivered for us. We will deliver for you. I guarantee you. And so I will tell you, I've been, as you mentioned, Gary, I've been taking the real polls. I think if we learned in 2016 what polls don't mean in terms of actualities, the polls that I see, which are, let's just say, the MAGA hat polls at the polling places, and also the pavement, show that not only Arizona will deliver for President Donald J. Trump for 4 more years,